Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you do not miss any video lesson from RAU'S IAS.
Hello and welcome to Daily Prelims Practice, where we take up the questions from the Hindu and Indian Express and curate them as per the demands of Civil Services Prelims examination. The topic of today's discussion are listed on your screen. Moving to the first article that has appeared in the Indian Express basically talks about the UPI payment. It says that UPI can be well accepted in Europe very soon. Now, such an acceptance around the retail stores will increase the usage and the acceptability of UPI worldwide. UPSC in the previous year has asked questions related to UPI in the year of 2018, and thus we can expect a question on similar lines in the future. The practice question says, consider the following statements regarding the use of UPI internationally. The first statement here is, payments made by customer using UPI will be charged in Indian currency. Now this statement is wrong, as the payments made by customer using UPI will be charged in the local currency and not in the Indian currency. Further, this will also attract a currency conversion charge that is levied by the bank, as it is in the case of card payments. The second statement says Europe will be the first region where UPI will be accepted internationally. Now this statement is again wrong, as NPCI, that is National Payment Council of India, has already entered into partnership with the UAE-based Mashreq Bank NeoPay and has allowed tourists and migrants to the UAE with the Indian bank account to be able to make UPI pay. Further, the UPI is also accepted in Bhutan and Nepal. So Europe will not be the first region where UPI will be accepted internationally. The third statement says NPCI's RuPay will also be accepted alongside with the UPI. And this statement is correct, as alongside UPI, NPCI's RuPay card network will also be accepted internationally and in Europe also, as and when UPI is implemented. The question further says choose the correct code, and the correct code for the given question will be option D, that is only statement 3 is correct. Moving to the next article that has featured in the Indian Express basically talks about the launch of digital banking units by Prime Minister Modi. Now this was done in the 75th year of independence, wherein 75 digital banking units are to be set up in 75 districts. This will increase the financial inclusion and also improve the banking experience of the sizable population. Now UPSC in the previous year has asked questions related to banking, and such a question related to Payments Bank was also seen in the year 2016. The practice question in this regard says, consider the following statements about the guidelines for establishment of digital banking units. The first statement here is, a digital banking unit can be opened in a section of an existing branch of banks. Now this statement is incorrect, because as per the RBI guidelines on the establishment of digital banking units, each DBU shall be housed distinctly with separate exit and entry operation. They will be separate from an existing banking outlet with formats and design most appropriate for the digital banking users. The second statement here says the scheduled commercial banks will have to take permission of the RBI before opening the DBU branches. Now this statement is again incorrect, as all scheduled commercial banks other than RRBs, the payment banks and the local area bank with past digital banking experience are permitted to open up DBUs in Tier 1 to Tier 6 centers unless and otherwise specifically restricted. Thus, they do not need to take permissions from the RBI in each case. Question further says, which of the following statement given above is or are correct? And as none of the statement given above is correct, the correct code for the given question will be option D, that is neither 1 nor 2. Moving to the next article that has featured in the Indian Express, it basically talks about the challenges in developing the technologies that will ensure supply of food and nutritional needs to the world, while also addressing the climate change imperatives. Now this is in news because the greenhouse gas emissions also have a major share contribution from the agriculture sector. Now the topic under the environment section has featured, and such a question was also seen in the 2016 when greenhouse gas protocol was asked about. So this area becomes important for us. The practice question says, consider the following statement. The first statement here is, agriculture as a sector is responsible mainly for non-CO2 emissions generated within the farm gate by crops and livestock activities. Now this statement is wrong, as agriculture sector is responsible for non-CO2 emissions generated within the farm gate by crops and livestock activities, but they are also responsible for CO2 emissions. These CO2 emissions are caused by conversion of natural ecosystem, mostly forest land and natural peatlands, to agricultural land. Basically, the clearing away of forest for agricultural purpose and thereby compromising where these forests act like sinks. Further, the emissions from the forest biomass, fires, and burning of organic soils in the humid tropics are included in these, which we know as jhum cultivation or the slash and burn cultivation. The second statement says agricultural activities from crops and livestock production release significant amounts of methane and nitrous oxide, both of which are significant greenhouse gases. Now this statement is correct, as significant amount of non-CO2 emissions such as methane and nitrous oxide, both of which are powerful greenhouse gases, are also released from agriculture. Now the first statement could have been right if the statement would not have mentioned mainly. So there is a balance between non-CO2 and the CO2 emissions. The question further says which of the statement given above is or are correct, and the correct code for the given question will be option B. Now moving to the next article that has featured in the Indian Express, talks about the meat and milk from plants. Now from the past some time there has been interest in the mock meat. Now UPSC under the science section has asked questions related to recent development, and such a question was also seen in the year 2013. So this area becomes important for us. The practice question says, consider the following statement with reference to plant-based meats. The first statement here is, plant-based meats serve as an alternative for those avoiding meat for ethical or health reasons. Now this statement is correct, as plant-based refers to those products that can biomimic or replicate meat, seafood, egg, and milk derived from animals, and they look and smell as well as taste similar to them. The second statement here says they can provide essential nutrients and may be lower in saturated fats than animal meat. Now this statement is also correct, as they may provide as tasty alternative for those avoiding meat for ethical or health reason, as well as they also provide the essential nutrients and fiber, and the most plant-based meat alternatives are lower in saturated fat content also. The third statement here says the unique characteristic of plant-based meat is its simpler texture than the animal meat. Now this statement is also correct, as animal meat has a unique spatial arrangement of protein in its tissues that creates the meat's distinctive texture. However, plant-based meat, on the other hand, has a simpler texture than the animal meat because the plant-based meat also lacks the critical muscle fiber that is present in the animal meat. The question further says which of the statements given above is or are correct, and as all the statements, that is 1, 2 and 3 are correct, the correct code will be option D. Moving on to the next article that has featured in the Hindu, basically talks about the foreign investor withdrawal from the Indian equity market. Now this is in news because in the past 2 weeks of October, 7,500 crore have been withdrawn from the Indian equity market. Further, this has led to an FPI outflow in an year that has reached to a level of 1.76 lakh crore. Now this withdrawal is mainly attributed to the monetary policy tightening that is done by Federal Bank of US and other central banks of the world. Now UPSC in the previous year has asked questions related to FDI and FPI, and such a question was also seen in the year 2020, where UPSC asked about foreign direct investment in India. So this area becomes important for us. The practice question says, consider the following statement. The first statement here is, foreign investment in an unlisted Indian company is treated as FPI. Now this statement is wrong, as it is the FDI, which is investment through capital instruments by a person outside of India in an unlisted Indian company, or in 10% or more of the post-issue paid-up equity capital in a listed company, that is treated as an FDI. So the given definition is not of FPI but of FDI. The second statement says, foreign investment in unlisted non-convertible debentures is treated as FDI. Now this statement is again wrong. This is a definition of FPI, as the RBI under its direction has allowed or permitted the FPI to invest in the unlisted non-convertible debentures, wherein the minimum residual maturity should be of 3 years. There are some end-use restrictions on investment, but still investment per se in the non-convertible debentures is allowed. So this is a definition of FPI. The question further says, which among the statement given above is or are correct? And as none of the statement given above is correct, the correct code for the given question will be option D. Now moving to the next article of the day that has featured in the Hindu, basically talks about the old pension scheme. Now this is in news because after Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, now Punjab is also moving towards the old pension scheme, highlighting the importance of inflation indexation that was allowed under it. Now UPSC in the previous year has asked question directly related to national pension scheme, has asked question related to the national pension system, and thus this area becomes important for us. The practice question says, which among the following statements related to the new pension scheme is incorrect? Now the question has asked about the incorrect statement. The first statement here is, any Indian citizens, that is resident and non-resident, in the age group of 18 to 70 years can join the NPS. Now this statement is correct. The earlier age limit was that of 65, but PFRDA, who is also the regulator of the scheme, has increased the maximum age limit to 70 years. The second statement says, unlike old pension scheme, the NPS provides for contribution by both the employee and the government. Now this statement is correct, as both the government sector employees and private sector employees are enrolled under it, and further the contribution under the scheme provides for government employees to make a monthly contribution at the rate of 10% for their salary and dearness allowance, and a matching contribution is paid by the government. The third statement says, unlike old pension scheme, the NPS does not provide for defined benefit upon retirement. Now this statement is correct. The last statement says, premature exit from the new pension scheme is not allowed at all for the individuals. Now this statement is wrong, because new pension schemes also allowed premature exit in certain circumstances for the individuals that are enrolled under it. So the correct code for the given question will be option D. Now moving to the next article that has featured in the Hindu, basically talks about the CSIR organization, wherein the PM Modi exhorts for CSIR society members to adopt one person, one lab. This will involve eminent scientists, industrialists and secretaries who are the members of the CSIR or the society to have visit in these organizations. Now UPSC previously has asked questions related to various organizations of national importance, and such a question was also seen in the year 2014, wherein UPSC asked about the Bombay Natural History Society. So this area becomes important for us. The first statement here says, the practice question says, consider the following statements regarding CSIR. The first statement here is, CSIR, that is Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, is an autonomous organization under Ministry of Science and Technology. Now this statement is correct, as CSIR is funded by the Ministry of Science and Technology, and it operates as an autonomous body through the Societies Registration Act 1860. Further, CSIR is the largest research and development organization in India and has a pan-India presence with a dynamic network of 37 national laboratories. The second statement says, Union Minister of Science and Technology serves as the president of the organization. Now this statement is incorrect as it is the Prime Minister of India who serves as the ex officio president of the organization, and Union Minister of Science and Technology serves as the vice president of this organization. The question further says, choose the correct code, and the correct code for the given question will be option A. Now moving to the last article of the day that has featured in the Hindu, it talks about the Hunger Hotspots Outlook report. The World Food Day this year has been a reminder to ensure that the most vulnerable people within our community have easy access to safe and nutritious food. UPSC previously has asked questions related to various reports, and such a question related to global competitiveness report was asked in the year 2019. The practice question says the Hunger Hotspot Outlook report is published by, and the correct answer for the given question will be option B, that is Food and Agriculture Organization, that is FAO, and the World Food Programme has released this report. The report has also highlighted that globally food and nutrition security continue to be undermined by the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, spiraling of food inflation, conflict, and as well as from inequality. So these were the questions for the day. Stay tuned for more such updates.